What if I told you there's a place on Earth where you can stand on one island and physically see tomorrow on the island next to it? Not metaphorically. Literally a different date, 4 kilometers away, across a strip of frozen water separating two countries. For over 130 years, people have tried to close that gap for good. And every single one of them failed, not because of the engineering, but for a reason that's still playing out right now, in 2025. Here's the geography behind that opening claim. At its narrowest point, the Bering Strait, the water separating Russia from Alaska, is only about 82 kilometers wide. That's barely wider than the English Channel, a strip of water people have been swimming across for fun since the 1800s. Right in the middle sit two tiny islands, Big Diomede, belonging to Russia, and Little Diomede, belonging to the United States. Less than 4 kilometers apart. Split down the middle by the international date line, which is exactly why one island lives a full day ahead of the other. And here's the detail almost nobody knows. This gap is younger, geologically speaking, than the pyramids are old. As recently as 11,000 years ago, this entire stretch was solid ground, a land bridge scientists call Beringia, the very route the first humans are believed to have walked from Asia into the Americas. So this isn't some wild fantasy dreamed up by engineers with too much imagination. It's an attempt to rebuild something that used to actually exist. Which raises an obvious question: if the ground was already there once, why has it taken over a century, and at least half a dozen serious attempts, to put it back? The answer starts in 1890, with a man who wasn't even dreaming small enough to stop at the Bering Strait. William Gilpin, the first territorial governor of Colorado, proposed something called the Cosmopolitan Railway, one unbroken rail line circling the entire planet, every continent stitched together, with his own city of Denver sitting at the symbolic center of the world. Crossing the Bering Strait wasn't even the ambitious part of his plan. It was one bolt in a machine the size of the Earth. 2 years later, in 1892, a college student wrote his senior thesis proposing a Bering Strait railway bridge. Remember his name, because it matters later: Joseph Strauss. Decades after this rejected college thesis, Strauss would become the chief engineer of the Golden Gate Bridge, arguably the most photographed bridge on the planet. His first big idea, though, got turned down by the Russian government before he'd built anything at all. Then came the closest this idea ever got to reality. In 1904 and 1905, a syndicate of wealthy American railroad tycoons proposed a full Siberia to Alaska line, tunnel included, connecting all the way to the Trans-Siberian Railway. And Russia's own Tsar Nicholas II didn't just consider it, he gave provisional approval for engineers to survey the actual route. For one brief window, this wasn't a fantasy sketched on a napkin. It was a real, government-sanctioned, funded engineering survey, already underway. So what happened? 2 years later, it was dead. And the reason has nothing to do with rock, or ice, or budget. Here's a name you would never expect to hear in this story. Ready? Joseph Stalin. Picture the Potsdam Conference, 1945. The Allied powers are literally redrawing the map of Europe after the deadliest war in human history. And in the middle of that conversation, the Soviet dictator turns to US President Harry Truman and proposes, seriously, that their two nations link their rail networks with a tunnel or bridge under the Bering Strait. Two men who were about to spend the next several decades as each other's greatest enemy, briefly discussing physically welding their two countries together. Truman said no. Within years, the Iron Curtain fell, and the idea vanished for nearly half a century, buried under the coldest rivalry of the 20th century. So if the two men who invented the Cold War couldn't kill this idea forever, who on earth would bring it back? The answer to that question is stranger than anything you'd guess. In 2005, a man who had literally declared himself a living messiah picked the dream back up. His name was Sun Myung Moon, and he called his version the World Peace King Tunnel. A simple crossing wasn't ambitious enough for him either. His vision was an 85-kilometer tunnel serving as the centerpiece of a global rail network stretching from South Africa to Chile to Tokyo to London, priced at roughly $200 billion. He described the strait as a barrier that had divided East from West for millennia, one humanity now had a sacred duty to close. And it kept escalating from there. In 2008, Vladimir Putin personally approved a Russian engineering plan for the crossing. By 2014, Chinese state media floated a high-speed rail line from Beijing to Alaska through the strait, folded into China's Belt and Road ambitions. Then, just last year, it happened again, and this time, it comes with maybe the strangest name drop in this entire 130-year saga. In 2025, a Kremlin investment envoy proposed what he nicknamed a Putin-Trump tunnel, floated right after a phone call between the two leaders about the war in Ukraine. And he suggested the contractor should be the Boring Company, the tunneling firm owned by Elon Musk. A czar. A dictator. A messiah. Putin. Possibly Elon Musk. Same idea, same 82 kilometers, across 130 years. And still, nothing built. So what's actually stopping it? Here's the twist that makes this story different from almost everything else on this channel. It was never really the engineering. Yes, there are real technical challenges, permafrost, seismic activity in a genuinely remote region, brutal Arctic weather, zero existing infrastructure on either side. But humans have already tunneled through worse. The Channel Tunnel crosses a similar stretch of water between England and France, and nobody today calls that a miracle, it's just a train ride. None of the obstacles here sit outside what modern engineering can already do. So if it's not the engineering, what actually killed this project, every single time? Timing. And trust. The Tsar pulled out because of war and revolution. Stalin and Truman were busy building a Cold War, not a railway. The idea's most passionate modern champion was a man most governments didn't take seriously. And the most recent version arrived wrapped around one of the most sanctioned, most fractured relationships on Earth right now, a Russia at war, facing sweeping Western sanctions that make an $8 billion joint project with American involvement almost impossible to picture moving forward under current conditions. Two continents that are, geologically, practically neighbors have stayed apart for over a century, not because of ice, or rock, or ocean current, but because the two countries on either side of that gap have almost never trusted each other enough, at the same moment, to pick up a shovel together. Here's a way to think about this that might change how you see the whole story. Most of the cancelled megaprojects on this channel end with one dramatic collapse, a war, a revolution, a single moment where the dream died and stayed dead. This one doesn't have that. It just waits, quiet, resurfacing every single time two governments briefly imagine getting along, then sinking back into silence every single time they don't. So maybe this was never a story about failure at all. The tunnel or bridge across the Bering Strait has never once failed a feasibility study. It has only ever failed a trust study. And as long as Russia and the United States remain two separate, occasionally hostile nations, those 82 kilometers of freezing water will probably stay exactly what they've always been, not an engineering problem, but a mirror, reflecting a relationship close enough in distance to finally build, never quite close enough in trust to actually try. A tunnel, a czar, a dictator, a messiah, and possibly the world's richest man have all separately dreamed about, and it still isn't dug. So here's the question I'll leave you with. If the politics ever actually lined up, do you think this tunnel finally gets built in your lifetime? Or is this simply one of those ideas destined to keep almost happening, forever? Tell me in the comments. This is Unbuilt History. Subscribe, because somewhere out there, another blueprint is still waiting to be dug up.